Yes, good afternoon. I hope you can see me and you can hear me very well. So let's give our friends like one or 2 minutes so that we can start the webinar. Let's give time for 1 or 2 minutes for others to join, then we can start the webinar. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can be good morning or good evening, wherever you are. I'm Nicholas Omoding. I'm a research scholar at Rodale Institute here in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, USA. I'm from Uganda, and it's my honor to present for you this webinar titled Unveiling the Potential of Cover Crops in Regenerating Agriculture in Uganda. For the good of this webinar, I'm going to switch off my video at one point during the question session. I will turn it on. So I'll switch off my video, then I will continue with the presentation. Thank you. So here are some of the basic rules we are going to follow. Make sure that you can hear me very well. If you can't hear me, please check the settings on your screen. And I would love it if you would type your questions in the Q&A section and not in the chat. The Q&A I'll answer some of the questions at the end of the presentation. And in case you have any problems, feel free to call Justin Buckley, our education manager, on the telephone number provided in case you're in the country, USA, or directly by emailing him through the email provided. The recording of this presentation will be posted on our website in a week's time. Thank you. Yeah, on your screen, you can see a very nice picture. This was shared to me by a friend. You can see this is the Suez Canal. The ship you can see right there, it blocked this canal for a couple of weeks. Really, this picture is so interesting to me because as an agriculturist, you can see on the upper part of the picture, you can see it's really green and yeah, it shows that's potential for farming. You can easily see, but just the opposite side of the canal, you can see it's really bare and really having no potential for farming. And believe me, I'm sure due to the erosion, all that, a lot of sand would end up in the canal. So what we're going to talk about will be basically the importance of cover crops to see how best it will help us with our farming systems. Yeah, as an introduction, I'll talk about Uganda as a country. Uganda is a landlocked country found in East Africa, bordered by Kenya in the east, Tanzania to the south, the DRC Congo to the west, and South Sudan to the north. The total area is equivalent to 240,000 square kilometers, of which 14,500,000 is for agriculture. The altitude ranges between 1,000 to 2,500 meters above sea level, and the population as of 2024 stands at 46 million people. The climate is a tropical country, and here we basically have 2 rainy seasons, except for the northern part of the country. The first rainy season is between March and May. Then we have a short dry spell. Then September to November, we have the second rains. Then the dry spell comes in. The mean rainfall ranges between 750 to 1,500 millimeters per year, while the temperature is like 15 to 30 degrees Celsius. I'll talk about agriculture in Uganda. Agriculture contributes a significant portion of the GDP, that's 25%, and employs 75% of the working population. And many people, that's close to 73%, depend on it for their livelihood. And the main crops grown include, the food crops grown include banana, cassava, maize, millet, sorghum, among others. Cash crops include sugarcane, tobacco, coffee, cotton. There are many, but I just mentioned a few. Yes, agriculture in Uganda employs close to 70 to 80% of the farmers are smallholder farmers, and they live in rural areas with average farm size of 1.3 hectares. And you can see from the picture, it is not mechanized, and it's really rain-fed, depends on rainfall for water. So now I'll talk about the status of soils in Uganda. The soils in Uganda, with 80% of the total land in Uganda is arable, but only 35% is being cultivated. The reason is that most of the soils are highly degraded and now cannot sustain farming or productivity. And if used in the right way, or like if we rehabilitate our soil, it has the potential to feed over 200 million people, which is almost 5 times the current population of the country. From the picture, you can see it easily, picture on your right. The soils are very old and highly weathered with very little organic matter content and cannot really support crop growth. Most of the soils are ferrous soils, and vertisoils, you can see how the soils look like. Then also there's a decrease in the fallow periods due to increased pressure on land. This has been brought about by increase in population. Initially, we used to fallow for longer periods, but now it's not the case due to pressures on land. Then even plots which are, or fields which are under fallow are in most cases abandoned and are poorly maintained than rather the deliberate fallow. Then also in Uganda, there's continuous cultivation without fertility enhancement. In Uganda, fertilizer use is really very low because it's very expensive and most farmers cannot afford to buy fertilizers. Then we have increased nutrient mining with low use of external inputs. It's a common practice in Uganda. People harvest almost everything and leave the soil bare, and they don't take back maybe the organic matter back to their fields. And also there's limited use of land management practices. So that's how we are standing as of now. So why are we interested in sustainable land use in Uganda? Yeah, this is a very good picture. I took this picture some time back when I was in the country. You can see farmers burning trash in the garden, or cover dry residues in the garden, which is really contributing to loss of organic matter and even air pollution. Yeah. So why are we interested in land use management in Uganda? We know we need to increase the land productivity so that we have more yields. And in this case, we need also to see how best we can use our water efficiently and also how to improve the soil health. Then also, if we manage our lands well, we shall improve ecosystem services. We know the ecosystem services, those are the provisioning, cultural, supporting, and regulating services. We shall also reduce the risk from climate change and variability. Then also the livelihoods of the farmers will improve in terms of food security and their incomes. Yeah. Moving forward, there are very many strategies for improving soil quality. This you can see from our slides. The first one, you can add organic matter to the soil. We know the different ways of adding organic matter. We can also use integrated nutrient management where we have both organic or inorganic fertilizers. Agroforestry, we can use agroforestry as a way of improving the quality of our soil. This, like, we try to incorporate trees in our farming systems and also try to use conservation tillage. Here we can have reduced tillage or minimum tillage, or even can go as far as doing strip tillage. The purpose is to conserve the soil and protect it from erosion. We can also add amendments, for example, compost to the soil, and it will add to the quality of our soils. Water management, we need to see how to manage our water. If we just let the water run, it can easily erode the soils. And being a rain-fed farming or country where we depend on rain for farming, we can also save the water for irrigation at one point. But basically, for today's presentation, I'll talk about cover crops, which is very important. I came to the US and I saw how cover crops have really helped improve the soil health and also contribute to the increase in the yields of crops grown here. So let's talk about cover crops. So someone will ask, what are cover crops? These are plants grown primarily for improving the soil conditions and also provide ecosystem or improve the quality of the ecosystem rather than immediate harvest. The purpose is to improve the soil, not for harvest. It's just to see how can we build up the nutrients in the soil for future use or future crops. And cover crops provide a number of benefits to farmers and also to the ecosystem. For example, if we consider to a farmer, it can help in reducing erosion. It can improve the quality of the soil through addition of organic matter, also addition of beneficial microbes to the soil. It can also help reduce compaction. Then also, it can add nitrogen to the soil. These are for the legumes. It can help in fighting the weeds and also break the disease cycles. To the environment, it can enhance biodiversity. You know, after planting maybe your corn or maize, you can add some other different crop. It enhances diversity in our farming systems. It can improve on the water infiltration, soil water infiltration, and reduces flooding, leaching, and runoff. It can also act as a habitat for wild animals and other beneficial microbes. So talking about the benefits, I got this from Soti et al. Her research of 2016. You can see she used 4 different cover crops: palm millet, you can see palm millet, lab, sun hemp, Sudan grass, no control, where they didn't use any cover crop. And you can see from here, the soil organic matter, how it improved. Sun hemp increased the soil organic matter by, you can see 1.46% increase in organic matter compared to when there was no cover crop. Even organic matter instead decreased. You can see the other cover crops also increased the organic matter. Sudan grass increased organic matter, lab increased, and palm millet also increased the organic matter of the soil. If you check other nutrients, for example, nitrogen, you can see stick sun hemp added 7.5 ppm parts per million of nitrogen to the soil. When there was no cover crop, we only had 2. Apart from nitrogen, we also added more, cover crops added more potassium to the soil. You can see 200, almost 200 ppm. Really, this is to highlight the importance of cover crops in any farming system. Talking about the other benefits of cover crops, you can see the rooting systems of the different cover crops from crimson clover. You can see here, we have hairy veg. You can see the rooting system. Sun hemp, you can check how the rooting system looks like. Annual ryegrass, you can see how deep it is. And here, we can find out that the roots of cover crops can hold the soil in place and thus provide resilience to erosion during heavy rains and even during strong winds. These roots will hold the soil firmly and prevent erosion. Besides being deep, they can also tap nutrients, for example, carbon from deep soil profiles and bring them up for the subsequent plants, and also improve the infiltration and drainage of the soils. So what are some of the qualities of a good cover crop? A good cover crop should satisfy the producer's main objective. We talked about these objectives earlier on. Maybe you want to suppress the weeds, you want to add organic matter to the soil, you want to add nitrogen to the soil. So the cover crop should satisfy the objective of the farmer or the producer in this case. It should also be established with minimal or no inputs. We don't want to add additional costs to our farming budgets. So a good cover crop should really should really ensure that we don't add costs to our farming systems. And it should be managed with the equipment we have and the labor we have at hand, and should never compete with the main crop or the subsequent crops we're going to plant, and should perform well during episodes of drought or flooding or during adverse environmental conditions. Really, we're trying to protect our soil or build it up for the next crop. And should also be resistant to pests and diseases. We don't want our cover crop to harbor pests and diseases, so that when we plant the next crop, we still have the same problem. Indeed, it should break the disease cycles. So there are different types of cover crops. I'm going to talk about them here. We have the grasses, the legumes, and the brassicas. The grasses here include Sudan grass, millet, sorghum, rye, oats, while the legumes, you can see from your screen, lab, alfalfa, clover, macuna, among others. The brassicas include mustard and radish. There are many cover crops, but I just added a few. So for the case of Uganda, based on our climate and our soils, the following cover crops have potential in enhancing our soil quality. The first one is Sudan grass. You can see the picture on your right. It's how it looks like. These are some of its attributes. It's an annual crop. It grows upright. It is very tolerant to drought and heat. And in terms of soil fertility, it can grow in soils with very low fertility. Then how is it adding to our soils? You can see it builds a lot of soil carbon. You can see it's adding a lot of organic soil carbon, because it's giving close to 3,000, 7,000 pounds per acre per year. This is a lot of carbon to the soil. In terms of nitrogen scavenger, here I mean, it will, instead of nitrogen, the soil leaching, it will take up this nitrogen, so that if you terminate the cover crop, it can still be taken back to the soil. If you don't grow your cover crop, in most cases, the nitrogen will just get leached to the soil. But some of these cover crops can scavenge the nitrogen and can be taken back. This cover crop is not good at providing nitrogen. However, in terms of erosion control, it's really good. Weed control, it's very excellent. It can go very fast. And when you terminate it, it forms a lasting residue on the surface of the soil, which can help like conserve the moisture and also suppress weeds. The next cover crop is foxtail millet or palm millet. This can be grown in Uganda. These are the attributes. It's an annual crop. It grows upright. Also very tolerant to drought and heat. In terms of shade tolerance, it is fair. It can grow in soils with low fertility. Performance-wise, you can see it's good at adding soil carbon. It's adding 3,000 to 7,500 pounds per acre per year. It's also a good nitrogen scavenger. It's not adding any nitrogen to the soil. Erosion control is good, and weed control is really, really good. We also have sorghum. It can grow in Uganda and can be used as a cover crop. These are the attributes. It's an annual, grows upright, also tolerant to heat and drought, and can grow in soils with very low fertility. Performance, yeah, in terms of nitrogen, it's also very poor, but it's adding a lot of carbon to the soil. You can see 3,000, 8,000 pounds per year, per acre per year. It's good at controlling erosion and also suppressing weeds. Talking about other cover crops which can grow in Uganda, now we are talking about legumes. Here, sunhemp. Sunhemp can grow in Uganda. I worked for a sugar company back home. We grew sunhemp. It's really so good. The picture you can see on your right is sunhemp. These are the attributes. It's an annual crop. It grows in a straight or it's an erect crop. It's heat and drought tolerant, and it can grow in soils with very low fertility. If you have to check its performance in terms of adding nitrogen, it's really good at adding nitrogen to the soil. It's because adding 15 to 10 pounds per acre. It's also adding some dry matter, 1,000 to 4,000 per year. It's good at controlling erosion and also suppressing weeds. And if you are to terminate it or later on, it can form that long-lasting residue on the surface of the soil, which can help conserve moisture and even suppress weeds. The next cover crop which can be grown in Uganda is alfalfa. These are the attributes. It's a perennial. It's very tolerant to heat and drought. However, it can also grow in soils with low fertility. Excuse me, there's some technical glitch here. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Cool. Excuse us, we were trying to sort out some technical issue here. We'll work it out shortly. Just a second.
You want to get to, it looks okay from here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Here we go.
go.
So we're trying to sort out some issues. I think we had some issues with the connection. So I was talking about alfalfa. These are the growth habits. It's a perennial. It can tolerate heat and drought. And in terms of growing in soils with low fertility, it's really so good. Performance-wise, you can see it's very good at adding nitrogen to the soil. It's adding 50 to 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre. It's also adding some dry matter to the soil, so it's building on our soil carbon. We can control erosion with that, with the cover crop, and also control the weeds. Besides that, it's good for grazing. You can use alfalfa for grazing. Clovers can grow in Uganda, yes. And we have red clover, white clover, and crimson clover. The picture on your right shows it's a red clover. Clovers are perennials and they grow upright or sometimes semi-upright. They are good at tolerating drought and heat. They can also grow well in soils with low fertility. In terms of performance, they're adding nitrogen to soil, 40 to 75 pounds per acre. They are building our soil carbon, was adding 1,500 to 3,500 pounds per acre per year. It's good at controlling erosion and managing weeds. It can also be used for grazing. The next leguminous cover crop which can grow in Uganda is hairy vetch. This is the picture of hairy vetch on your right. These are the attributes. It's a cool season annual. There are areas in Uganda where hairy vetch can grow. For example, Kabale, the mountainous regions of Rwenzori and even the Elgon areas, it can grow. It's a climbing crop. It's fairly tolerant to heat and drought. It's good at tolerating shade, and fertility-wise, it can grow in soils with low fertility. The performance, you can see, it's very good at adding nitrogen to the soil. It's adding 50 to 100 pounds of nitrogen compared to clover. So hairy vetch is adding more nitrogen compared to clover. And in terms of building the soil carbon, it's really good. It's adding 1,800 to 4,000 pounds of carbon of dry matter per acre per year. Can also fight weeds and also control erosion. Besides, it really grows so fast. So at the end of the day, you're covering your soil at a very short time. We have Mukuna bean or Mukuna beans. You can see the picture on your right. These are the attributes. It's an annual crop. It goes upright and can climb. It's good at tolerating drought and heat. in terms of growing in soils with low fertility is really so bad. It doesn't perform well in soils with low fertility. Performance-wise, it's adding nitrogen. I think you can see if you compare mucuna with the two previous crops I talked about, hair vetch and clover, you can see that mucuna is adding 100 to 200 pounds of nitrogen. The others were adding between 50 to 70. Mucuna is adding more nitrogen to the soil. Besides that, it's adding to our soil carbon because it's adding 3,000 to 6,000 pounds of dry matter per acre per year. It can be used to control weeds, and you can use it for grazing and also for erosion control. Then also lab, we know this. These are some of these attributes. It's similar to the previous cover crop I talked about, the mucuna beans, though it can also not go well in soils with poor fertility. Performance-wise, so close to mucunas, adding 50 to 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre. It's good at controlling weeds and erosion. The next cover crop which can grow is Canavalia. Same as lab. You can see the attributes. It's an annual, grows upright and climbing, and it can tolerate some shade. If you check how it's performing in relation to the others, similar to lab. So I'll not talk much about it. It's just to highlight that these cover crops can be used. So we also have the versatile cover crops. The first one is mustard. These are these attributes. It's a cool season annual, so it can go in such areas I've talked about, Kabale area, Rwenzori, part of Rwenzori, and probably the Legon areas which are a bit cool. Yes, you can see it can go in soils with low fertility. Then if you check performance, this performance is adding on our soil carbon, it's adding 500 to 2,500 pounds per acre per year. It grows really very fast. And it can be used to control weeds, and you can use it for grazing and also manage erosion. The last cover crop I'll talk about is radish. You can see it's similar to carrot, but it's not carrot. These are its attributes. It's a cool season annual. It can tolerate shade, and it's good at growing soils with low fertility. Performance. This cover crop is known for soil compaction. It's good at mitigating compacted soils. It's really very effective. Besides that, it's adding carbon to the soil. Like it's adding 1,500 to 4,000 pounds per acre per year. Can also be used to fight weeds and also control erosion. So talking about those cover crops, there was a research conducted by Drake Mubiru and Mark Colin in Uganda. And this research was really interesting to me. I got this paper online. This study was conducted in Kawanda, Palisa, and Mbale districts. Yeah, you can see that they did a preliminary baseline study of the soil physiochemical properties, and they found out that the soil organic matter, you can see the soil organic matter in the three sites were really very low, below the critical value. You can see Kawanda, it was 2.7, Palisa, it was 1.6, 1.3. And you can even see the concentration of nitrogen was way below the critical values. So the cover crops they used included mucuna, lab, Canavalia, and also they had natural fallow where they didn't plant any crop. And you can see from the graphics on your right, Canavalia performed better in terms of adding dry matter to the soil in two locations, that's Palisa and Mbale. What you can see also is that if you see right here, the natural fallow had lower dry matter compared to all the other plots which had cover crop. This is to highlight to you that cover crops can be used to add organic matter to the soil. Besides adding organic matter, they also checked how the cover crops improved nitrogen and P concentrations in the soils. And they found out that Canavalia, you can see here, Canavalia added a lot of nitrogen to the soil, almost 170 kilograms per hectare. Just check below this, 30, this is what was in the natural fallow. Without cover crop, we had 30, but with Canavalia, we had 165. Lab, you can see still higher than even natural fallow. Mapuna are still higher than natural fallow. The same applies to protected area. This shows that cover crops can help build the soil nitrogen and P content in the soils. So this research was conducted in Uganda. So talking about cover crops, it is important to consider a lot of factors when choosing your cover crops, and it's really advisable to mix your cover crops. So we know every farm is different. Even within one farm, management objectives may vary based on the weather, the location, and the history. So when starting up your cover crop, maybe mixing your cover crop, it is important to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each individual cover crop. Individual cover crops often excel at providing one or two functions while also having their own drawbacks. For example, forage radish can suppress weeds and reduce compaction, but does not provide a living root or lasting residue on the surface of the soil during this next season. Clovers can capture nitrogen from the atmosphere, but may not suppress the weeds so well. The grasses may also add nitrogen, may not add nitrogen to the soil, but they will add carbon. So it is important that you need to mix your cover crop so that you have numerous benefits at the same time. So what are some of the considerations when you're gonna mix your cover crops? You first consider the complementary growth period. Different cover crop species have varying growing periods. So you need to select these crops based on their growing patterns. And it's important to ensure that the growing patterns are complementary with each other and they synchronize each other so that they reach maturity at the same time. So that's easy to terminate or to maintain them so that you can grow the subsequent crop. Also, you need to consider the growth forms. There are some species which have really the same growth pattern. And if you plant such species together, for example, you plant Mukona and maybe Lab, they're all creeping, they will compete with each other. So it's really advisable to plant species which have different growth forms. Then also nitrogen acquisition strategies. We know that the grass species do not add nitrogen to the soil. However, the legumes add a lot of nitrogen to the soil. So if your intention is to build up nitrogen in the soil or to add carbon, it's better you balance the two species. You know, so sometimes it's better to consider beneficial insects and pollinators. You know, you saw the picture of clover, it has a beautiful flower. It can attract bees also. Then when selecting the best cover crop in your farm, what are the steps you need to follow? Cover crops may provide many benefits, but they are not a wonder crops that they will give you everything. So to find a suitable cover crop mix or the best cover crop for your farm, first clarify your objectives. What do you really want the cover crops to do? Do you want them to control weeds? You want to add nitrogen? You want to build your carbon, or you want to maybe add nitrogen to the soil? So you want to first check your objective as to why you're going the cover crops. Then the next is identify the best time and place for the cover crop. Yes, it is important to know, like, okay, when am I going to plant this cover crop and where exactly in the farm? You may find that maybe portion X of your farm is not doing well in terms of nitrogen. So you need to find out exactly where you're going to incorporate your cover crop. You can also describe the niche. Here, ask questions such as, how will I plant the cover crop? How is the weather going to be? How vigorous the crops will grow? How are you going to terminate or manage the cover crop so that you can plant the subsequent crops? And also have the contingency plan in case it fails to go, what are you going to do? And you need to also ask, do I have the necessary equipment or labor to manage the cover crop at a later point? And it's really advisable to test a few options in your farm. Then finally, you can select the best cover crop which really works for your farm. Yes, these are the possible cover crop planting dates in Uganda, considering that we have 2 rainy seasons in most parts of the country, like from mid-March to like end of June. Then we have that dry spell. The first option is you can plant your cover crop at the beginning of the rainy season. That's early March or early September. The purpose is that your soil is highly degraded. So you want to build really a very strong organic matter content. You want to add nitrogen. So it's better you just go planting the main cereal crop or main crop, and you plant your cover crop purposely to build up your soils for your subsequent crop. You can also do intercropping or late cropping. In this case, you can plant in mid-April, you can see, or mid-May, or mid-October to mid-November. Here, we can see from this picture, a farmer had grown his corn. When the corn is growing at a given height, he planted the cover crop in between the rows. Here, we can see that when he's going to harvest the corn or the maize, the cover crop would have grown. And by the time he's done with the harvesting, cover crop will take over, really protect the soil or cover the soil. The last option is you can plant at the end of the rainy season. Uganda is really the best country. You can see from the line here. You can plant it late in May or late November. Here we can see we have a window here, there's a gap. Just here, you can see we have an extended rainy period from June to July. You can plant early, harvest early. Then when you still have the rains, you can plant your cover crop, around this season, or probably towards late, around November. So during this period, you can plant your cover crop when you have already harvested your main crop. This is what I'm talking about. You're going to harvest your main crop and you plant your cover crop. So cover crop termination is another key thing we need to talk about. Yes, we have planted the cover crop. Now, how are we going to manage so that we plant this next crop? So the first option is use of herbicide spray. Here, cover crops are terminated using herbicides 10 to 15 days prior to planting. And it's good when the cover crop is at a height of 1 to 3 inches, and it can be used in most species. And it's most effective during vegetative growth stages of the cover crop and during sunny and warm weather conditions. You don't need specialized equipment to do the spraying, though it's not good for organic farming. It can also help build this soil health, because you can see you're still having something covering the soil. Option number 2 is the slashing or mowing. Here the cover crop is cut. You can do this when it is at 6 to 12 inches of height. And most legumes and some cereals can be terminated using slashing. It's an easy option, and you don't need specialized equipment to do it. And it's very good at building the soil health. Option 3 is grazing. You just let your animals into the cover crop and they will eat whatever is there, though it will not lead to complete termination. It is really good for organic, sometimes good for organic farming, and it helps build the soil health. The next option is tillage. Here, soil is inverted or turned over, damaging the cover crop root systems, and in the due process also taking it back to the soil or inverting it into the soil. Here, you need a tillage equipment. Yeah, it's may not be so possible in Uganda due to mechanization challenges, and it's not good for building the soil health. It can be used for organic systems. I would love to draw your attention to the research of Mobiru and Pauline I talked earlier. Still the research earlier they had 2 management options of terminating cover crop. We had the slash method and the herbicide method. You can see here that slash method, if you check the weeds, these are the weeds, not grass. Vegatrix, and others. You can see how the weeds were higher in the slash method than in herbicide. So when deciding the method to terminate your cover crop, think about its advantages and disadvantages. Herbicide is really, may not be so good, but sometimes helps surface with during the subsequent phases of your farming. I would love to draw attention to one of the methods of managing cover crops or terminating cover crops, which has been practiced in the US and other developed countries, in the UK, for example, and that is the roller crimping. You can see from the picture here, this is an implement which can be attached to a tractor. Right here, what I'm showing you. You can see these are the blades. Here, the blades will squeeze. It will not cut the cover crop. It will squeeze to break the cover crop into pieces. So we know the plants, if you break them into, you squeeze them into pieces. So during the course of translocation of nutrients can't easily reach to their leaves. And at the end of the day, the cover crop will dry up and to be terminated. This is roller crimping. It was designed by the CEO Emeritus of the Bell Institute and has been practiced all over the country. Here you can see the roller crimper attached to the front portion of the tractor. The advantage is that you can do 2 operations at a time. You can terminate your cover crop here, and at the same time, you can plant your crop. Here, we were terminating the cover crop using the roller crimper while planting soybean. So what do you find? What do you get at the end of the day? This is what you will see. You'll see between here, the cover crops have been terminated and it's really forming a mulch on the surface of the soil. At the same time, we have our cash crop growing. This is really so good. Yeah, talking about cover crops. Yeah, in Uganda it can work, but still we have a lot of challenges which are really affecting the adoption of cover crops in Uganda. So talking about the first, the social challenges. For example, the traditional farming systems, we know most of our farmers are resistant to changes in their farming methods, and sometimes they prefer familiar crops to cover crops. Also talking about the cultural beliefs, some farmers may have cultural beliefs that influence their acceptance to newer cultural practices. Then the community dynamics, lack of community initiatives and farmer groups to promote cover crops, and peer influence and social norms may hinder the adoption of cover crops in Uganda. Then if you come to the issue of land is a big issue in Uganda. Security of the tenure. Many farmers do not have secure land tenures, which discourages long-term investments like cover crops. Farmers who do not own land in most cases are reluctant to invest in practices that benefit the soil in the long run if they feel they're not going to access the land at the end. Then also, if you check the size of our land, I talked about it earlier, average is 1 hectare. Really small and fragmented land holdings make it challenging to implement cover crops. And also, if you move to the next, the technical factors we talk about here, lack of knowledge and training. I've talked about the roller crimping. Even me before I came to the US, I didn't know about it. So I think it's a big issue in our country. So we need to really inform our farmers and let them know that cover crops can be used. Also seed availability. Most of the cover crops can't easily access the seeds. I've talked about the equipment. Then also environmental factors. Climate variability. Yeah, we have unpredicted weather patterns which may affect the growth and performance of the cover crops, and also the soil conditions. Some soils are really so bad. Yeah, we talked about Mukuna not performing well in soils which are really poor or not fertile. So some of these factors are really affecting the adoption of cover crops in Uganda. Political factors like policy support, a lack of government support and incentives for cover crops. In other countries, yes, the government is taking up the issue of cover crops seriously, and farmers have incentives for planting cover crops. Then extension services, it's limited. You find most extension services are not focused on cover crop, they think of other things. Then economic factors. The initial cost of investment may be high, and sometimes to get the returns, it takes time. Yes, you're building the soil carbon. You may not see the results tomorrow. It will be maybe after 2 or 3 years. So some people may really feel it's not really feasible, economical, but in the long run, it helps a lot. Then other factors, research and development. It's a big issue. Like I try to do research on just to do a literature search on the latest research done on cover crops in Uganda. I couldn't get. I just got like 2 papers by Drake and 1 more paper. So we need to really work on research and development, and also try to disseminate information about cover crops and see how best we can use the cover crops to improve our soils. Then these are some of the potential areas talking about research. We can do agronomical research. Here we can do a variety of trials, see which cover crop will work well for given regions. We know Uganda is really diverse in terms of temperature, climate, and even soils. We need to find out which cover crops can perform well in the northern part of the country and maybe in the central. We need to do a lot of trials and also see how best we can integrate cover crops in our rotations. I talked about it earlier, where we see we can take advantage of the prolonged rains after harvesting our crop, we plant the cover crop. Then also soil health and fertility. We can do research on soil microbial diversity and activity to see how cover crops are really improving on the microbial activity in the soil. Nutrient dynamics, here I talk about the soil, what's happening in the soil after incorporation of the cover crop, and also to the crop. Now we are talking about the nutrients in the crop. Also, we are not after the soil. We are trying to see how the nutrient density is changing, and also see how it is contributing to other conservation strategies. For example, controlling soil erosion. The economics and research is very important. We can do a CBA, cost-benefit analysis, and see really how best we can improve and enhance the adoption of cover crops, and also try to use incentives for farmers that they take up the practice. Then also can do research on environmental and ecosystem services. Here we can see how cover crops can increase resilience to climate change, and also weed control. Some of the cover crops I talked earlier, for example, Sudan grass, the sorghum, have allelopathic effects and can help control weeds. Then also technological part of it, the roller crimping I showed you, we have engineers in Uganda who can design something similar to that. The purpose is just to see how to get the cover crop down and break it, or just squeeze it into small pieces and terminate it. We have sharp brains in Uganda who can do that. Yeah, so this is the take-home message, and I got this from a friend of mine shared this with me. You can see we have close to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bulbs, but one is shining. Yeah, we can make cover crop shine and contribute to the development or enhancement of soil productivity in our country, Uganda, because it has been proven that cover crops have potential to increase land productivity, and as well as incomes and livelihoods of most farming systems. And increased adoption of cover crops can contribute to the realization of the country's development goals. We know we have Vision 2040, and also currently we have the SDGs. All this requires a multifaceted approach to improve the livelihoods of the smallholder farmers. And finally, integrating cover crops will help us reach the 80% potential and be able to feed more people. I talked about it earlier, that 80% of the land in Uganda can be used for farming, but currently we are using 35. So if we try to use some of these innovations or methods, we can build up the soil carbon, the nutrient levels will rise up, and some of the areas which were not used for farming can be used for farming, and we can feed more people. Yeah, thank you so much. I would love to thank the management of Rodel Institute led by Jeff Catch, the CEO, for giving me the opportunity to do my internship and training here. I would love to thank my supervisor, Dr. Gladys Zinati, the Director of Vegetable Systems Trial, and also Dr. Surab Das, the Director for Farming Systems Trial, for giving me the opportunity to express myself. and present this to the entire world. Yes, in case this is the time for questions, and this is my email. These are my email addresses. Feel free to reach out to me, and you can share knowledge. Yeah, I would love to answer now some of the questions. Okay. The first question in the chat we have, what is nitrogen scavenger and how is this performance indicator important? Yes, thank you, Nicole, for that question. Nitrogen scavenger, in this case, I mean, when you don't plant cover crop and it rains, all the nitrogen in the soil will be leached to the deeper layers. So if you plant cover crops, for example, Sudan grass, it will use up the nitrogen. It will take up the nitrogen from the soil. Instead of it being leached, it will take up the nitrogen, and it's within its system. So by the time you terminate that cover crop, the same nitrogen will be taken back to the soil. I think I answered your question. So let me check. I just looked at the paper. There's one more question here in the chat. Let me see. Just okay, next question. Where did you purchase the seed in Uganda and how much did it cost? Where did you purchase the seed in Uganda and how much did it cost per hectare? Yeah, some of these seeds are already available in many of the seed companies in Uganda. I didn't purchase any seed in the first place. I just highlighted the research conducted by Mubiru, and the other name has just gotten off my head. But if you do a Google search, you can get most of these seeds are available in the country. You can get them from the seed companies. I know Victoria Seeds could be having, and Victoria Seeds could be having all the seeds among other companies. There's the next question. Is there a premium price for organic crops in Uganda? That's a good question. I believe organic products have premium prices, of course, and it's in demand throughout the world, provided you meet the requirements and certified. If certified, you can get the premium. And I know I think it's Nogamu in Uganda trying to promote organic farming in Uganda. You could reach out to them and get more information. Thank you. So do the chat, let me check also. How many seasons should I expect? How much change? My concern is unveil the actual potential of these cover crops. This is by Zachariah. How many seasons should I expect? How much change? My concern is to unveil the actual potential of these cover crops. I don't get it well, but let me try to understand how many seasons should I expect. Oh, if you could type this question again, it would make my life easier because I thought I haven't understood the question. Are there cover crops native plants to Uganda? Yes, there are many native cover crops in Uganda. I just mentioned a few. We have Central Sema, all those can be grown in Uganda. There are many, but just because we have not done enough research to find out which ones can really work well. But I believe there are many native cover crops in the country. There's one more question in the chat. I would like to know whether some of these cover crops can have negative effects on specific crops in Uganda. Yeah, some of these cover crops can have effects. I talked about the qualities of a good cover crop shouldn't be a host pests and diseases. Yes, so that's key. Sometimes it can host some pests and diseases and can affect the subsequent crop. Also, if you don't terminate it well, it can become a weed at one point and can be an issue. I think it's area rich, which is really can be challenging if you don't manage it so well. Yeah. There's one more question in the Q&A part. Do you know any small scale growers using cover crops? Yeah, I can't answer that question right now because I've been out of the country for the last 3 years. Yeah, 2 years I was in Hungary pursuing my master's degree and 1 year in the US. I am sure, yeah, cover crop is being used in regions such as northern Uganda, even eastern Uganda. There are farmers who are using. The issue is the adoption is really, really very low. Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to look for more questions here by Zainati. Thank you, Nicholas, for the clear presentation. Thank you so much, Michael Kube. I think this should be my good friend, John. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I've learned a lot about roller crimping. Yes, roller crimping. Yes, you can just go to YouTube, just type roller crimping. You'll see how best it works. It's really so good. I love it so much. And I would love it to be used in Uganda, just because we need to really fabricate something which works for our case. But the idea is the same. Rowani, Alex, thank you. Dinesh, great presentation. Nicholas, thank you. I'm grateful. Any district in northern Uganda where cover crop practice is going on? Yeah, it's a good question. Before even hosting this webinar, I had a conversation with one of my friends. I think he works up country in northern Uganda. I had a lengthy discussion. There are organizations, NGOs in northern Uganda promoting the use of cover crops. That exact district I can't tell now, but he told me that, and I will find out and I will let you know. Just reach out to me. Yeah, I think let me see if we have more questions in the chat. Yeah, I think that's it. There's nothing much. Like, I don't see any more questions. In case, okay, let me see if something is coming. Yeah, maybe one more question. Let me check. I think we are good. Thank you guys for attending this webinar. I hope to help shed more light on how we can use cover crops in Uganda. Uganda, being the part of Africa, we need to really keep the flag high and support our farmers and, yeah, improve the farming system. Thank you so much.